Divorce lawyers of Reddit. What's the worst way you've seen someone screw over their spouse? My uncle represented this guy getting a divorce from his wife of 15 years. Super toxic breakup, and they split everything 50-50, even the land that the house they lived in sat upon. Well, she decides to build a house right behind the other house. Mind you, this was a lot of land, probably 200 yards separating both home sites so that the backs of the houses faced each other. The house gets built, and my uncle gets a call from his client asking about the legality of a situation he had gotten himself into. Apparently, his ex-wife would spend a lot of time in her backyard, so he saw her all the time. What he did was buy a female dog and name it the same name as his ex-wife. Anytime he would let his dog back in after letting her out, he would yell, "Susan, you witch! Get in here." He would also yell if she was peeing on the flowers, "Susan, you witch! Quit pissing on the flowers." Or, "Susan, you witch! Quit digging in the dirt." The ex-wife called the cops on him a couple of times, but there was nothing they could do because the dog was registered under the name of Susan, and it was in fact a witch. So there you go. The couple separated 10 years ago, but didn't officially divorce until a couple years ago. She was going to get his house, so he burned it down and then faxed her the transfer of ownership forms. He might be going to jail for arson, though. I worked at a law firm that was subpoenaed as part of a divorce between a partner at the firm and a partner at another major law firm. The woman issued more than 70 subpoenas to banks, firms, investment companies. You name it, because she was convinced he had squirreled away $20 million or more overseas behind her back. It got so bad that she dug up receipts from 25 years ago to try to put together this grand conspiracy puzzle. In the end, after she racked up $1.5 million in legal fees and hired 7 different lawyers, the judge said this shit is ridiculous. There was no conspiracy, and you are not entitled to a portion of this phantom $20 million. Mind you, this was a major law firm partner who was acting this way. She made millions per year in her career, but she apparently lost her mind. Bad separation. The wife filed a restraining order against the husband. Very common. He wasn't a terrible guy, but not great either. A year into the divorce, his mother was dying. He asked his sister to speak with his ex-wife and ask her to bring the kids to see her in the hospital before she died. The wife never did. Instead, she went to court and said he violated the restraining order by trying to contact her. You can't contact someone through another party. He admitted it and explained the situation, but was found in breach of the order. His mother died while he was locked up, and the wife never brought the kids to see her. Story from my parents, who are lawyers. So throughout the divorce proceedings, there was a car that was a huge point of contention between the husband and wife. After months and months of saying he would never let the wife have the car, the husband concedes in exchange for something great, like one of their summer houses. It turns out he had been driving the car for 3 hours every day in a big loop around the city, putting thousands and thousands of miles on it, basically making it worthless. The amount of planning and effort that went into that was amazing. I did some consulting work for 2 divorce attorneys when I was in graduate school. Their client was a career airline pilot. His wife worked part-time, so there was a huge income disparity. It was an ugly divorce. During the process, but before the final decree, tax time rolled around. The wife's attorney calls my guys and says, her accountant just called. If they can just share their W-2s and file jointly, they each stand to save about $8,000 over married filing separately. My guys took that information to the husband. He says, screw her. Losing $8,000 is going to be way worse for her than it will be for me. Cold as ice, man. Over here in the Netherlands, most legal costs are paid for by the government if your income is below a certain threshold. In practice, this means that if one of the spouses in a divorce has little to no income, and the other one has a normal income, the one with the normal income will have to pay a lot as the process drags on. Considering there are plenty of ways to drag it on, I've seen cases approach ridiculous amounts of billable hours. There is a catch to this, however. Your lawyer is paid a set amount if he or she is paid by the government. However, should the money you receive after a divorce or exceed a certain amount, you are expected to pay your own lawyer, which is the reason we still keep track of the hours in these cases. So this one woman, who thought she was screwing over her ex-husband by dragging the divorce over multiple years, got a payout of €40,000 by the end of it. Unfortunately for her, she had to surrender most of that straight back in lawyer costs. There was a certain sense of justice there. It also proves time and again that when there is conflict, the only true winners are usually the lawyers. Banker here. I had heaps of situations where joint overdrafts or credit cards came up just before divorce, to the absolute surprise of one of the parties. Drained down to zero, of course. It's especially sad when it's students or young kids who find themselves heartbroken after the breakup and with a debt they can't afford. I had a guy who was married to a woman who slept with another guy, had that other guy's baby, and never told the husband. Then, for other reasons, they started divorce proceedings. A paternity test was done. The husband found out the kid wasn't his, and the courts ruled that he still had to pay child support because it was in the best interests of the kid. I handled a divorce between a teacher's wife and a CVS cashier's husband. I represented the wife. For all intents and purposes, the wife was the breadwinner of the family, and she supported herself, her husband, and their 2 children. I should note that one of the children was severely autistic and required intensive and expensive rehab and education. During the process of the divorce, the husband, living alone, sued the wife, caring for both children, for temporary spousal support. He met all the statutory guidelines to receive it, but it just came off as slimy. On the day of the hearing, the judge reviewed all of the facts and spent 20 minutes lambasting the husband. He called him a vile creature who was everything wrong with society. The judge then told us that his hands were tied and that he was forced to grant the spousal support. But he let everyone know how little he thought of the husband. As we were leaving the court, the husband just kept saying to my crying client, "Just like Goodfellas, screw you, pay me." It was literally humanity at its worst. I am not a divorce lawyer, but being a banker, I get to delve into the personal lives of people. And this is what a customer told me. Well, basically the divorce was cut and dry, but as a professional, that's not my business, so I'm worried about his finances. My guy was the breadwinner in the house. He was a construction foreman, I believe, so he was the guy planning, paying, and watching his employees. He was great. Apparently, his wife wanted to screw everything up, but the thing that pissed him off the most was the fact that she took the boat, his boat that he had purchased before ever meeting her. The funny thing is, though, that she cannot afford anything to move the boat with, like a truck. So he had to legitimately move his boat, with his truck, to someplace she was staying and just leave it. He lost his boat. He asked me at the end how old I was, and I told him 21. He told me never to get married. I would get to keep my stuff at the end. I saw a future ex-wife fight vigorously over the disability benefits of a not yet retired career military guy. She had a new guy to bankroll her, and legal fees were nothing to her, so she dragged out asset division and divorce proceedings for months over the not yet accrued disability benefits of her soon-to-be ex-husband. Total amount to which she would have been entitled, about $400, before the Supreme Court decided disability benefits are not marital property. It was some very petty bull. Wife and husband number 1 divorce with a child. The wife gets custody of the child. Husband number 1 pays child support. The wife marries husband number 2. Husband number 2 adopts the child. Husband number 1 is no longer on the hook for child support, as husband number 2 is now legally the father. Wife and husband number 2 get a divorce. Because of the adoption, husband number 2 has to pay child support for the child. Wife remarries husband number 1. The child now lives with husband number 1, the biological father. Husband number 2, the adoptive father, still has to pay child support. My wife is a divorce attorney, so she told me about this one. The couple was living together through the divorce process, but with separate bedrooms and all that. Anytime the husband would buy a snack like chips, crackers, or something similar, he'd come home to his soon-to-be ex-wife, who would smash the bag until the snack was dust, but never open it. So anytime he'd go to eat a snack in what was thought to be new, he'd be disappointed. He was not awarded a restraining order or anything for this either. He was super mad about the dusty snacks, however. I was a clerk of the court, and we handled a lot of divorce files. You wouldn't believe how many people submit nude pictures of their soon-to-be exes into the court record as evidence. Not because the pictures are relevant in any way to the divorce proceedings, but simply to humiliate them. Court files, unless sealed by the judge, are public records, so anyone who cares to look can access the court file and all the exhibits. Family court is the most depressing division. Don't send nudes to people. So many cases. But generally, the cases that sickened me the most went like this. The wife has a baby. The husband has zero interest in the child, and even resents the attention that the child takes away from him. She tells her wife that she is 100% responsible for this child, even financially. The wife realizes that her husband is a shitty parent, and that makes him a shitty partner. She would rather be an actual single parent than deal with his man-baby shit. A divorce petition is filed. The husband is told by his lawyer that the more time he has with his kid, the less child support he will pay. The husband starts going to doctor's appointments and doing kid stuff with the child, being a parent. The parties are now divorced. The husband has a 50-50 timeshare and is a doting father. All the wife wanted was for her husband to take an interest in the child, but she had to divorce him to get it. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories linked at the top of the description. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys next.